coming on board. A lot of different topics to talk about. The things I just kind of go through. It's kind of funny how I just got through reading from a political perspective, and they're saying how Trump wants black votes. Duh, of course he do. He's circling around the wagon. Don't they all want black votes? What else is new? It's interesting how people somehow, you know, get black people monolithic, thinking that you just one way, that this ain't gonna be this way. They all want black votes. They all hoping that they tell the right lie, they connect the dots. They catch you wanting something, they connect the dots. You know, it's very what's up, how you doing? Just talking about there's this thing out right now on an African diaspora talking about Trump wants black votes. I'm like, yeah, he do. Don't they all? So that's one of the topics. Scottie Pippen, Phil Jackson is very interesting. Phil coming out saying that Scottie got some dark days. I say, yep, that's true. He has a very dark undertone about him. It's kind of it's convoluted. It's complex. You know, things don't go quite like you think. Playing coaches and stuff. Of course, I know somebody's gonna ask me what I thought about that thing with Jordan Poole last night. They had the Lakers scared. That was kind of like that's why I'm not sold on it. And I like what Charles Barkley's comments got was one of the big things when he said, "Ain't nobody worried about the Lakers or the Warriors." He's right. There's nothing to worry about. As great as the numbers are with LeBron or Steph Curry, their teams are ninth and 10th seed. How am I going to be worried about teams that are playing tournament teams? What is there to be worried about? You're not winning a championship. You got to leap over way too many things, play incredible ball. Now, I will say this. Ask me who I think, yeah, well, that's going to be a battle for years to come. I think Wemby in a couple years, there'll be a legit strong playoff contender team. I think OKC's problem, they need another pure scorer. Well, you talked about a cherry pick scorer. Carmelo type right now with him and Shea would be scary. That's exactly the kind of player they need because I think they're gonna have that problem, their work cut out. They're getting exposed for being, they're athletic and they're winning a lot of games on that, but they got to make a statement. But Wemby's gonna be something else. I'm gonna tell you something. You better, you better hope they don't get no guard play, don't get a second coming of Parker and Ginobili there and get a bench because Pop could be back. I guess if that's breaking news, I mean, I expect him to get it in Philly. I mean, he's one of the most important Philadelphia 76ers ever. I'm not necessarily going to be like, um, I'm not leaping up out of my chair about him, but I give him his due. I listen. I did have respect for Iverson. Don't really have many. I like performances that he did, but I wasn't like, um, I thought his best season when he got the MVP, he came up big, especially in that Toronto series. Uh, he had some big moments. You could always say the game one in the finals against the Lakers. He played out his mind. He came up big with some big plays, but I can't really he had some games that I like, but you know, I'm one of those kind of people. Yes, he's one of the greatest players ever, but he was not better than Isaiah Zeke Thomas. So until Zeke gets his due, I can't really feel that way about Iverson. Just gonna keep it 100. Gotta keep it 100 about that. I think in some ways they didn't made him more uh certain things they've kind of gone a little bit more where he's concerned. And I kind of got a problem with it to an extent. He was great, but then, it didn't he never had another year like he did in '01. And he didn't come back and his team wasn't so I mean, I liked things that he did. You know, I like things that he did. Some people got him more romanticized, some don't. Well, it's called cohesion. It's called, you straighten out the irons in the fire. Um, of course, they're gonna look better because there's a lot of garbage teams. There's injuries. There's certain things that they're gonna look better that they do. You know, still doesn't mean that they're gonna come out the East. They should be considered, but that doesn't mean they will. You know, as long as Giannis doesn't sit there and lie to himself and tell people that it's Dame's team and all that crap. You know, Doc Rivers knows how to coach during the regular season. That's not his problem. Okay. Doc knows how to front ride, he knows how to ride the front seat passenger regular season. That's not his problem. We're not talking about them in the regular season. We're gonna talk about them when we get to what? April and May. We to get to June. We're not talking about them right now. Of course they should look good. Their problem is gonna be matchups, half court basketball postseason. It's not the problem right now. Giannis is so good, and they're a contending team that he's always in MVP discussions, and they're a 50-plus win team. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about, can you win a chip? No. Can you sustain and maintain? Okay, here you go. Well, Orlando is playing pretty good basketball. I don't know about that, though. They're playing pretty good. I don't know about them giving a long series. I don't think Orlando's a team I think of that could be a problem for them. I think the Pacers might be a problem. I don't know about the Magic. The Magic are an up and coming team, but I don't know how good the Magic are as of yet. Okay. But the Pacers, that could be a problem. Pacers could be a problem. The Magic, talk to me next year. But I'm not surprised that they're still where they are this year. But of course, I will tell you this. If Miami decides to get into another gear, they're winning the division. But the Magic are better than a lot of people gave them credit for, and I'm not surprised that they're doing good. And I did say that they would be pretty good. But there's going to be contenders and pretenders, okay? And they're not, I don't think they're going to give them a long series. I think the Pacers are more of a problem for Milwaukee. Everything out west is going to be nice, okay? Because the West got more intrigue. Now, that doesn't mean that they got the better teams, but they got more intrigue, aside from who's playing Denver. If everybody's healthy for Denver, all bets are off. But 2 through 8, that's compelling. 2 through 7, that's compelling. That could go either way. I don't see nobody nobody moves me like that. I think the East got more interesting stories. I think they do. Milwaukee, Boston, Miami, Philly. Keep your eye on, and 4.5 teams in the East. The West, to me, it's all about Denver until proven otherwise. But there will be more compelling series in the West. It's a cute story, but they don't play enough good defense, and they're not right where they need to be. You brought up a good point. Just so you know that I'd be paying attention to your questions and your sayings. You mentioned about Monk. We had this conversation about Monk. You mentioned him about a few weeks ago. He's not consistent. They got a problem in a position. That's one of the reasons why they might kind of taper off. I do believe that if the defense was a little bit more steady, I know you say like him, but something missing. There's something missing with them. I'm not sold on quite on them yet. They can be a problem, but I got to see if they can be beat. There's a difference. Being a problem and beating teams is two different things. So we'll see. I will tell you this though: those teams ain't going nowhere in the West because they're more younger. So we shall see what happens. But I'm not sold on the Kings quite like that though. Yeah, but what kind of returns can you get? You know, what can you get for Brandon Ingram? I don't know. Zion, I don't know. I don't know. They're one of the biggest disappointments I've seen in recent years. Just not on the same page. Should be running the West, if you want my honest opinion. If not for Denver, they should be. Yeah, but you got to give up Bam, give up Duncan Robinson. You got to give up about 3 or 4. You got to give up like 5 or 6 pieces. If he is healthy and motivated, that's a steal, but that's a big if. Because he already suffers from Kawhi Leonard syndrome. He don't want to play. He got load management. He don't play. He don't take care. Oh, he played with Pat Riley. He had to get in shape. He played with Spo. He had to get in shape. There ain't no, there ain't no, there ain't no gumbo in Miami like that. And then he had to watch out for them fast girls too. So I don't know. Healthy, mentally motivated Zion would be the second coming of Charles Barkley with a Shaquille O'Neal dominance. I co-sign. But but he has to have the right situation. I seen him, and they doing good. They just getting into motion for the postseason. That's all. You know, I just don't like the turn it on, turn it off thing that they do because sooner or later you play in the first round, and if he's not him, they could be in trouble. So, and I'm not really, I'm not so sure how far they can go. They dangerous, but I don't know. We'll see. But the one thing I like about them is they're living proof that there's nothing that's dominant. That's kind of a loaded question because the only reason is because different GMs have different agendas. Depends on who we're talking about. See, because I can't put them all in the same boat. Like you take somebody like Jerry West, he gets stuff done. You know, San Antonio, that cat knows how to draft, get people. Same thing with Oklahoma City, get stuff done. When you're talking about the Lakers, it's a glamour thing. Pat Riley, he looks for big fishes and desperation. So it's just different. I mean, it's kind of hokey nowadays, just like any other All Star game. They tend to either drag stuff out. You only get like a glimpse of people. It's not quite the same. They used to feel like it was a real battle. Now just, it's like the rest of All Star games. They feel like some cats just showing up. It's not, I don't really sense anything that's special about it anymore. It used to be a way to see cross leagues battles and guys playing against each other. It's different now. I don't even like to entertain it, if you must know. Same way I feel about the NFL and NBA. I don't waste my time with that. Catch the low lights. It's just not the same. Only thing is that now that you're a closer, you basically can get 55 saves by pitching to one batter. They've manipulated. I went from a Goose Gossage to a Mariano Rivera to a Trevor Hoffman, Bruce Sutter Smith. I saw different guys used to have to pitch innings. Now these guys come along. All they got to do is face a batter. They load up. So it's different. Well, remember what I told you about bums? There are no bums getting 40 saves. They're guys that I consider that are ordinary. I'll say ordinary because I don't want to say they were scrubs, but I'll say ordinary. I'll give them a better pass. They're not good to great, but they're ordinary. You get ordinary guys who are pretty average, just okay, but their saves is up. And it manipulates it to make it look like a joke. See, it's an insult to the Goose Gossages who comes off his couch, and he got a right to be mad. Rivera would too. So a lot of guys who get it now, who are somehow seen as closers, but they didn't really put in the work, and they're getting saves in an era where all you got to do is pitch to one batter. They manipulate it so much. So it's watered it down. It's just one of many things across sports. Depends on what sport you're talking about. That certain things that used to hold some prestige, they're watered down. They're like a joke. You know, it's watered down. You need somebody great to come along and to make you appreciate it again, because now everybody's in on it. So well, they've been that way. They've been that way. That's not nothing new. Um, I don't think it. I think it's a lot of guys hitting home runs, but it's not guys like Aaron Judge came out with the 62, so that was a big thing. But there's not guys that are hitting home runs where it's that dude that is distinctive. And Judge is kind of like the last of the distinctive ones, but he really ain't, because aside from playing for the Yankees and being a big old boy, he's not distinctive where he's winning. He's not someone that you love to hate. So it's kind of, I don't know. Um, I don't know if I miss it. I mean, baseball has had all kinds of eras. I mean, I just miss great dominant players. I miss guys that you knew were great, and also teams, and you had concepts. You just don't have neither one. So now you just kind of got like a smorgasbord or something that gets going. Um, you know, I don't miss that era because I don't miss it in the one regard. It's one thing when it's great players who putting up big numbers. It's another when you got uh Brady Anderson, cats that you don't even know. Brett Boone. Some cats that aren't known for being big power hitters. That's why I have a problem with it. Out of body guys. Cats that good and well weren't gonna jack no 40, 50 home runs, and that's what I don't miss. Because it's a who's who of guys doing it, and you know, but I miss when baseball had, some distinctiveness. There's no distinctiveness now. I love Pettit. I mean, he wasn't dominant. He wasn't Ron Guidry, but he came up clutch in the postseason, and he always was a guy that was scrappy. So, um, I can't really find. I mean, you could say Pettit probably could have won more games. I don't know. No pet peeves with Jeter. Come on now, he's a made man. He's in the top 5 greatest Yankees ever. It's nothing to say against Jeter. He came up big. Nothing at all. He sacrificed for the team. He came up big. If you're a Yankee fan, um, I'd say a made man, but I'll say this. The only thing is that probably playing that game streak, probably two things worked against him. He played that consecutive game streak and also not having Eddie Murray there when Eddie left. I think those things were because I think he could have been even better player. He won that ring in '83 and he looked like the sky was the limit. And he was great. But then I think chasing that all time, um, games played, and I think not having Eddie Murray, someone like kind of a safety net, kind of derailed even more from him. Well, he's starting all these games, 21-30. So I don't know but he played in all the games, he played. I know. It was an incredible streak. Yeah, game streak. I don't know if he did all 9 innings every time, but you know, but the thing is, I think that it kind of took over. I mean, he was a great player. Let's not get it twisted. He was great. He was great, and he could hit, and he was clutch. But I do think when Eddie Murray left, I think that kind of hurt his game. You know. See, I kind of had a front row seat because I used to live in Virginia, and so I used to see the Oriole games all the time, and he was great back then. You know. So can't find no fault with Winfield. I loved him. He was a great player, great athlete. I think that it's a shame. And it was part of it because Steinbrenner was racist. Things didn't work out in New York, and it maybe could have been a little bit more. But I liked how his career ended with Toronto where he got the rings. And I thought he was a great athlete, great talent. I had nothing but good. Winfield's one of those guys that's underappreciated. He's a freak all around talent. You know, um, he was legit. One of those guys that was an all around athlete. You know, so I got nothing, got nothing to say. I got nothing bad to say about Winfield. Just probably wish he'd have been more successful with the Yankees. But I mean, hey, there's a lot of factors involved. But I got nothing bad to say about him. Some of the guys I'm not gonna really have any peas about because I saw their greatness. Got nothing bad to say about it. The only thing is that now without the old Steinbrenner around, but I mean the guy won big. Okay, and Cashman was great. Cashman was great. I he won a lot. You know, he's one of the best GMs across sports. It's just that when you're with the Yankees, people got the expectation you got to win more than you did. And I do think if the Steinbrenner Senior was the old man was around, he'd probably been on the hot seat. But you know, the man came up big. Mike Hunt, I don't know who that is, so I hope you're not trolling. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. It was considered unnecessary war. I have a very close. Okay. Okay, got him out. He actually did have an interesting question about Vietnam. Thank you, T, though. Uh, I do have a relative of mine in Virginia who served, and we talk about it. And it's a pretty heavy situation. being black, going through that, going to a place where you were unknown, and people coming back in body bags. It's a really heavy story. Um, when I talk to my relative, we talk about that all the time. He shares with me about what his life was like, because I was barely coming into the world, and he was finishing up, and he said that you know he learned a lot about racism. He learned about being over and careers, things that he saw, and some of his friends come back in body bags and how things were. So you know, it's a lot of lessons there that they didn't come back heroes. So it was a very painful reality. As I was saying about Cashman, though, so we can talk about that Vietnam thing. It was pretty intense, racially segregated. And what Ali was saying about not signing with them, a lot of people felt like that too. Some did, some didn't. So, um, yeah, Cashman. Listen, if it was anyone but if you're the general manager for any other organization that isn't, say, the Yankees, the Lakers, the Celtics, the 49ers, the Cowboys, you know where I'm going at with this. You bought yourself a career lifetime pass. He did what was he allowed to do. It's just that they got to have chemistry. It's just not hitting right now. I think it's got something to do with Aaron Boone, the manager. I just don't think they got the right mix and match. Sometimes I think they too old because I tell you about Tampa Bay, Baltimore, and then I see how Houston was been successful, Texas successful. You look around. He not fired because it's not the old man there. That's why I keep telling you. If Steinbrenner was around, he'd have been fired about when they lost to Houston the first time, probably back in 2017. Steinbrenner wouldn't have gone for it. Not this long. But it's a different situation now. They also understand that there's no instantaneous fix them quicker picker uppers. You know, 20 years ago, you had the opportunity to get you an Alex Rodriguez, a Roger Clemens, a Gary Sheffield. There's those guys on around. And now you got Soto, so we're gonna see. But it's a different type of era. So, you know. And they are also like you know, it's a long time as a Yankee fan, 15 years since they won a chip, but that's not a long time for some others. So, you know, just saying. Yeah, well, it don't matter to me until we get to the season. I'm not gonna really get excited until we get to the season. You know, he can play, and I remember he did in Washington. Why it didn't work with the Padres? You had Tejada Jr. and you had Manny and you had him and uh Darvin the pitcher. They had a few pieces. They just underachieved. I don't know why. Because the Padres had a nice squad. On paper, they probably had the second best squad in the National League West. But paper don't win you chips because that's the Dodgers. You've had the best on paper the last 15, 16 years. They got one ring to show for it. So paper don't mean nothing. It might be true, but they got to have somebody get on base in between. They got to have pitching. They got to have save. They got to have the other things. Power is going to get them probably about 5 or 10 more wins. Then what else you going to do? So I'm not going to get excited about stat padding until you winning. Yeah. So I got to see what they do. None. None. He was great enough as a shortstop for what he did with his glove. And to see, I'm not gonna say nothing in hindsight because his era was different. And you comparing him to A-Rod as a hitter, a shortstop, or the way guys have become like Garcia Perry or Miguel Tejada and all them guys. But I loved Ozzy as a player. He was clutch. He came up big. He did a lot. He was great. He's one of the greatest shortstops ever. So yeah, I guess and he could say he was aloof. That might be one of the reasons why he won't get in the Hall of Fame. He spoke his mind. I thought he had a great stroke. I thought he was a great talent. He won. Probably could have been a little bit more interesting about how he gone about certain things, but I like Chef. You know, I never have a problem with black folks being themselves, especially when they're not trying to be jive. So I like Chef. Chef's one of my favorite players, but I can understand how he could some people off. Um, it's just because as a manager, not as a player. I mean, he got hurt as a player, and he was one of those guys who should have been a great. I mean, he looked like he was going to be a poster child for being one of the greatest Yankees ever, and he still might get considered top 25 Yankees ever. But I'm talking about he was going to be in that right with Jeter, and he had the tools at a particular time. Just that they didn't win like that, and they weren't at that stage when he played. As a manager, he was just overrated. He had opportunities, and they just didn't. Uh, he was with the Dodgers, and it just didn't. And he had some, I don't know. He had some white privilege, and he's got power hungry, and it didn't work. So as a manager, I don't really talk about him, but he was a very good player. Nothing to say against Dusty. Dusty was a good player, great manager, and one of the all around people persons. He connected, you know. So I got nothing bad to say. But Dusty was cool. He was cool. You know, glad he got his ring because he deserved it. Everywhere he went, teams got better. So I got nothing. Dusty did his thing. And unlike some people who coach up top tier talent, their ego gets the best of them. It never worked. It never. He never was. You never gonna throw that ego against Dusty. Bonds, Kent, Sammy, didn't matter. Dusty still. He's one of the greatest managers ever. So there we go. Depends on the manager. Again, they all not lumped together. Different ones have different agendas. So again, because it's kind of like I can't really lump them all together. I won't. It's just like NFL coaches and NBA coaches. You got to specify when you ask me a coach's pet peeves because they all have different agendas. Depends on who they with. Um, a Yankees coach is not going to have the same mindset as a Florida Marlins coach. Get what I'm saying? It's just different. If you coach the Detroit Tigers as opposed to you coaching uh, the San Francisco Giants, you're just gonna have a different side. Tigers won a chip 40 years ago, and they've been to World Series last 10, but the Giants won four in the last 20. You know what I'm saying? So Success and what you attract and what you bring brings different situations. So I can't compare. If all things are equal, then yeah, but all things aren't always equal. Teams don't always get the best managers or, well, we know it was Tiger Proof because of him. He changed the course. They made the course longer because of him. And I think it's, I think the pet peeve is that it's a great course, but yet when you go outside the block from it, it's a dump. And they make it romanticized. It's like a plantation, then it's a dump when you leave it. It's kind of like the Super Bowl of golf courses, though. I used to watch it. Of course, when Tiger played, I stayed tuned to it. You know, but it gets romanticized. But it was a slave quarters too. It wasn't until 1990 that they let black people come in there. Think about it. It was 7 years before Tiger Woods won in '97. I really don't have one with that. I don't really. I ain't that deep in it. I don't even hardly watch it. Probably must say how old you got to be to consider the senior tours, but I don't even know. I saw Tom Watson do it, and yet he was still good enough to contend for a regular. So I don't know. I don't even know. I know that LIV. I know that new golf thing they got, which all the cats were up against. With the Saudi Arabs, they have to get down with it now because there's more money. My only pet peeves about the Olympics is simple. Who are the judges? That's it. I don't really even pay the other stuff no mind, but when we get to the judges, especially them winter games, hmm they get bought and paid for. That's all. So yeah, that's my only complaint was when I watched them. You got to worry about figure skating, and somebody fall on their butt 2, 3 times, and they get a 4, and someone that does a perfect spin and come up, they get like a 2.5. I seen them do some real janky stuff, so that's my problem. Just them judges, not the Olympics. I generally like watching track and field, and I watch different things, but it's them judges. Probably, well, growing up, I liked the '84 Olympics because that's one of the first ones that I saw. '96 was magical with Ali with holding the candles. Um, I like more of the performance. I'm not really big on them though. You know, one of the last things I liked was when Usain Bolt was winning, running crazy. But I'm not really big on them. I can't. I tell you why I can't get into them because they try to get into the patriotic, and I can't. I was disappointed with 2020 because everything that was going over here with George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, and I thought it was gotta be tough to be black and go over there and participate. Plus, also with everything going pandemic, everything with people, start. Is it worth it? So, I mean, one of my favorite things ever was that Muhammad Ali took his gold medal and threw it in the water. He said, "I want to represent it." So that comes to mind. What you didn't know. What you didn't know. Tell me what you didn't know. Oh yeah, yeah. So first time I ever heard about that story was my mother's ex boyfriend. I was a kid, and they loved Ali. Because cats grew up in the '60s, and so and he came back. And actually, there was a TV movie. There's a movie. He came back to Louisville. He threw it in the water. It was in a TV movie. Yeah, you can Google it too. But I remember seeing it. He didn't feel right. He always spoke out against the racism. And contrary to what they try to sell you on TV and everything, white folks wasn't loving him. I caught enough of it just as a little boy. They didn't love him, just like they didn't love Dr. King. They didn't love Malcolm. And it wasn't just all white folks, there was some black folks too. My grandmother saw him back in Houston in 67 when he didn't want to do Vietnam and they threatened to send him to jail. But she wasn't feeling him though. And that's why we disagreed because Ali was always one of my favorites. He spoke out. He spoke out. They didn't like what he had to say. But I don't know if he was any more scary than Jack Johnson. See, that's the thing, because Jack Johnson scared him too. Jack was bald headed, dark skinned brother. So I don't know. I know when Joe Louis came along, who was a great fighter, but Joe Louis was considered more crossover. I know they embraced him than they did Jack Johnson. See. And it's funny when we talk about what's scary. Well, he crossed over and he did shuffle with the flag and stuff. You remember he won his gold medal and he was shuffling with the flag, and he was patriotic. Oh, yeah, everybody loves his grill. We got one too. And he crossed over, even though he really didn't cross over. The thing about George is he was a brother that he, how do I say this? He shuffled a bit, but he didn't really fully shuffle, but he had crossover appeal. And it was amazing without trying. Because he wasn't like Sugar Ray Leonard. He wasn't like Ali. He wasn't De La Hoya. He wasn't Floyd. He was an odd crossover. I don't even know if he had Joe Frazier appeal. I don't even know if he had Frazier appeal. But he had appeal. Go figure. He had appeal. All the heavyweights back then had appeal because Ken Norton Sr. was doing movies. Larry Holmes didn't have appeal. Larry was greasy and black and ashy. And they just didn't give him no love like that. That's just keeping it 100. Just saying. But Foreman, yeah. I call it like I see it. We don't even call him Larry. We used to call him Wary. Wary Holmes. Wary. Wary is a brother. There are some cats that they big, but it's kind of like, white folks don't act like they know him, and black folks, they champion him, but they not really like it's just because he won and he was one of those guys. But it wasn't like people was feeling him like that. You know what I mean? It happens. It happens like that. It's I have to give you some examples. I got to think of some. They'll come to me. I'll give you some examples. But he had no appeal. He had no appeal. He was a champion. He was great. He just didn't have no crossover appeal. Well, obviously, if they're real popular, you fill in the blanks. That's the best way I can tell you because they had to have somebody white put some money on them to get them some limelight. Now think about it. Think of all the ones you can think of that blew up and their popularity. There you go. That's your answer for it. Because yin has to meet yang. Yin has to meet yang. You got to have somebody to think that your money to blow you up. It ain't just on your skills. Remember, it's like a plantation auction. It's also like being a trick on the streets. You blow up, somebody put money on you to blow up. It ain't just because of your great fighting skills, but you have to. He's borderline. He had the Italians run him. Don King pimped him. He was sexual stereotype. He was loud, brash, arrogant, ego, and he was put front and center, Sammy Davis Jr. TV special. He was put front and center hanging out with Michael Jackson, with Prince, with Rick James, with the Hoop, the Hobnob. Mess with Robin Givens, who is an industry borderline welcome mat, allegedly, but she messed with top tier name people. If you think about it, he fits that criteria. Even though he turned a lot of people off too, because the people had disdain for him because they thought he was eager-ish and a thug and scary. So a lot of things there. TV, TV. He still does cable commercials. See, you gotta remember something. Boxing is like being on the stroll. These guys, there's certain guys who get a certain limelight. Okay, more money's put on them. Okay, it ain't by accident. Now, you can win a lot of fights, but can I sell you? Are you marketable? Like Lennox Lewis was not marketable like that. He just happened to be a champion, but he wasn't marketable like that. Frank Bruno was marketable. I can tell you, you fill in the blanks about certain guys. They all fit a certain criteria. Remember, you're standing out there with just your trunks on and some gloves on. That's auction. It's like plantation. Put money on you. Think about Floyd, pay per view. Pay per view. And he didn't say some suspect stuff too. So just saying, you know. I think Roberto Duran is starting to fall into that line. Some people have kind of forgot how great he was. Sugar Shane Mosley to an extent. Lennox is. I love Lennox too. You and I share that in common. And when he beat Tyson, Tyson was past the pull date. But I think he would have gave him problems if they were in the same age, the same time. Because Lennox was a big, strong cat. You know, he just didn't get the Frank Bruno love as a Brit. But great fighter. Great fighter. Great fighter. You know. Which one? Which one? Which one? There's Michael, there's Leon. Okay. Yeah, well, funny story about him. He was a good, strong cruiserweight, but when he put some fat in his behind to fight Tyson, he was too big and he got knocked in his behind and he didn't have the juice. Didn't have the juice. He he was he would be considered. He would be considered uh underrated. He would be considered underrated in hindsight. You know, he was tough. He was unorthodox. But after that fight against Tyson, he was, and of course Larry Holmes never felt he lost to him either. You know, I think he got a little too big when he fought against Tyson because he just got hit in his butt. That's all it was. Tyson just hit him in the cakes, knocked his butt out. But he was having an interesting career before up until that. He definitely was. I think Leon was underrated to an extent that he beat Ali at older, but Leon was a decent fighter. And Leon was one of the real cats too. Leon talk real talk, you know. So, you know. So those just, they were, you know. But Michael, yeah, Michael was tight. He had an interesting style, but I think that fighting Tyson, was a big payday and a big match. It kind of deteriorated, took away from his place in history, and so people kind of not gonna give him his due. He didn't last but 90 seconds. I remember that fight too, because me and my homeboy, we were coming back from the YMCA. We was come back. We been swimming, playing ball, riding the car back, and that's back in the day when people got the pay per view. The line was out, the cable was out the street. And that mess didn't even last but 90 seconds. I was like, y'all spent all that money for that? I was like, you got to be kidding me. But so overrated. Uh, that's a hot topic because I'm gonna say something that'll come off, and you can say some might think that Floyd Mayweather is overrated. Some might say Rocky Marciano is overrated. Okay, some might think that some might think that um who could I pick on? I think Floyd is great for what he does for us his defense. Fury's got steroids. I don't know if you heard about that or not, but they're not talking about it. Fury's on them rods, but they're not talking about it. I think that Floyd is a very polarizing guy. The reason why he gets any diss is because he waited so long before he fought Manny Pack or difference. But his defense is not something that to be played with. Klitschko was good. Those guys were good. It's just that they're fighting in the era where heavyweight fighting is not the same no more. That's all. And it's not their fault. It's just that it's just not the same. But it's all subjective, though. I mean, it's all subjective. We don't really have an era where we could sit there, because boxing is taking a backseat to MMA so much, and I'm not going to get into all about MMA, but boxers are at a real desperation because can you get the money to generate? Can you get the fights to generate? Oh, well, Freddie Pacheco. I mean, I have to go back to the Ali trainers, Angela Dundee, uh, Gus D'Amato, the old school. Teddy Atlas. Yeah, I said Teddy Atlas. The old school. For Mayweather Senior, and it's a couple other cats I can't think of right now. Samuel, what's his I want to say Samuel. Can't think of right now, but all the old school ones would get it. You know, all the old ones. Emmanuel Stewart, yeah. I see, because I mean, the old guys, they just happen to have the blueprint for a lot of the guys. That's all. So that's how I feel. You know. So, but again, it's subjective. That's a very subjective thing to say, because when we talk boxing, you could be talking about eras. I really don't have any right now. I really don't. I really don't have any favorite right now. You can feel me. I mean, you can mention the ones I seen them, but I'm not really like enough where I'm so impressed. Not like that. I know about Tyson Fury and I know about a couple of the cats, but you know, boxing right now is not quite like it once was. Um, it's hard to argue against a guy who was a great player and then an even greater general manager. It really is. He's a made man. He's the logo for crying out loud. Got nothing bad to say about Jerry West. You know, he paid his dues. He came up big in multiple ways. That man is like a walking encyclopedia about basketball. I think sometimes he might not always tell you how he really feels about this player being great or that. I don't know. But there's no pet peeves with him. I just those people that if you talk basketball, he could talk to you backwards, sideways, and forwards. Got nothing bad to say about Jerry West. Nothing at all. He left a lasting impact, and that's the understatement, you know, lasting. And I don't say that about a lot of people associated with any sport, but there's not too many people that you could put in Jerry West's same peripheral either because the guy won and dominated on different levels, and he did it. You know, he just did his thing. Bradshaw, I think sometimes he gets a bit showy on it on when he's analyzing things. Sometimes like he lost, sometimes like he drunk. I don't know. I like how he was humble enough as a quarterback. He knew he wasn't the best. He did say he didn't mind taking those hits back then. So he tells you how soft the game is, but he somehow he got cuddly like a bear and people bought into his personality. And so he works on regular TV and I got no problem with it. I got no problem with it at all. You know, because he's one of the few people that if you think about it, can't find a fault because he's from the 70s, you know. And when I say that, he can talk today's football. He films to blend in. So, you know, well, I hate that it's called Black Monday. Why don't they call it what it is? Pink Slip Monday or Whiteout Monday. Um, we pretty much know who's gonna get fired. Well, so this year, I don't know how many people saw Pete Carroll getting let go. We knew Belichick was on a dead man walking. We knew that um, uh, 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 um, um, Ron Rivera was a dead man walking. So it's kind of like some people you just know. So it's not like you sitting there going, "Oh, I didn't see that coming." I mean, like So you know, I think that it's just a matter of how quick can you guess it, and it's kind of like name that tune, but you know it's going to happen. So the main ones is who don't get fired, who you think's going to, but they usually get them out of there. You know, I think people were kind of surprised about Mike McCarthy, but Jerry Jones can't afford to let two people go. You must be reading my mind, and that might be the best one. You didn't say it all today. It might be I'll say your best pet peeve of the week. I can't stand this, especially when you play there for like a year or two, and all of a sudden they used to didn't do this mess. They didn't do this mess. This mess just started recently. Wasn't like you getting some video tribute because you was there for 3 weeks and all of a sudden they got like a half a highlight reel of you. I'm like, what are you? What is this? If you had a great season or two, you know, it was like, okay. Nowadays they feel like they got to give you a video tribute and applause and stuff. I'm like, no. Now, Kawhi Leonard getting a tribute in San Antonio and Toronto, okay. I understand. Okay. I'll give you that. Uh, but who can I pick on? Okay, let me think. Let's see who can Jordan Poole getting a tribute. Yeah, getting a tribute. I'm like, come on now. You might have a couple of people give him a couple of claps, but come on now. Or dang, who got to pick on? I got to pick on somebody. Um, yeah. I mean, they went to the finals. Okay, let me give you some real ones. Like Dennis Schroeder going back to Atlanta. Oh, Dennis Schroeder. Dennis Schroeder. Like, what did you do? What did you do? Now, Marcus Smart, they did get to the finals. Shock. They did win in Toronto. I got no problem with that. Marcus Smart, they got to the finals. I don't have a problem if your team did go to the finals. I got a problem if your team was just your team for 3 weeks, or you maybe was a playing tournament, you got knocked out and you got let go, or something like that. It'd be like if Rudy Gobert got a tribute by the Utah Jazz. I'm like, okay, he got some little defensive player of the year, or D'Angelo Russell got a tribute by the Minnesota Timberwolves. I'm like, you ain't do nothing. At least accomplish something. Get to the finals, maybe be an all-star, win a ring. Okay, one of those three things. If you didn't go to the finals, you didn't win a ring, or you won an all-star, why you got a tribute for? I don't get it. I don't get it. It'd be like a Kyrie Irving got a tribute in Boston, or Gordon Hayward. What did they do? What did they do? See, let it count where you counted for something. He would, because he did help. He did get a ring, and he played a role in practice. Jordan didn't beat him up, so I know what you're getting at with that. But like, say for instance, Luke Longley got a tribute in Phoenix. That would where I'd be cringing, because he sucked. Okay, I already told you about that. But well, that does carry weight. That carries weight. That doesn't, those guys did contribute off the bench. They contribute in practice. I will give them this much. One thing that Phil Jackson was talking about, stuff you don't see, guys do go hard in practice. Sometimes guys go harder in practice than they do in games, because they have to pump up who the starters are. And so there's the finite that you maybe necessarily don't see. And they're not equipped to be in those dudes, but they had to earn their keep in practice. We're not gonna go into the Will Purdue history ring book. And no, he's not going into a Hall of Fame, but that's very nice of you to give him the tribute. But I know what you're going. They're not gonna retire his number nowhere. But he would, being white, be in the right spot, probably get a general manager job. At least a TV or broadcasting gig, worst case scenario. So, but when you're part of a certain team, everybody practices, everybody goes at it. So they might be scrubs and bums. Well, I'm not gonna say they bums. I'll say they scrubs are just okay casualties. But in practice, they got to step it up. So, and that's the only reason why I give some of these guys even half a pass, because they have to go at it in practice. If you don't go at it in practice, then your butt's gonna be not gonna be associated. Because the Raiders are known for that. They talk about practice squad, and when they go at it in practice, they expect those guys to give it up against the guys. So, so yeah, well, but there is a difference though. Scrubs got potential to be good to great. They just choose to be average. Bums are never was. Scrubs is never. I got it wrong. Bums got a chance to be good to great. They settle for average. Scrubs are never was. But they might give you an out of body. There's a difference. And S and B, or B and S, take your pick. That's why some people feel too is BS how some guys get on these teams. Some of them feel that way. So yeah, I heard. I don't know if I want to talk about it. I mean, I might do a video. I don't know. I just can tell that he hasn't been the same guy in 2 years. That I do know. And it's a shame too, because he definitely showed a lot of upside 2 years ago. And we'll never quite get that guy back. So, but I'm sure They will definitely get somebody as compensation. I heard about that, and I'm gonna do a video about that because he never gets his due for giving back to the community, and I definitely like that. It's important that black app players are talked about that. Often than not, it's always about how much they spend. But Westbrook is a real one. He's a real cat, and he doesn't get his due. You know, for doing things. I think it's great. I really do. I'm probably gonna do a video about that one tomorrow. All that booing and people be acting funny with him, but he's a down to earth cat. Because I had read about it, and I might seriously consider doing that. I'm not gonna lie. I've been critical of him because I always said he was the only cat I know who like played 21 by himself. Because I thought his antics sometimes was padding it up with OKC, and I saw certain things. But I'm going to say this: he's fitting good with the Clippers, and I think that with the right coach and the right mindset, he still got something there. So um, I think he's a good dude. I just don't always go for his game. That's all. Sometimes it's kind of reckless. Certain things I've had issue with him playing, but as a dude, he's cool. You talking about Russell Westbrook? I think he falls more into scary smart black because he is intelligent and they scary the way he comes at people, but sometimes they provoke him. He's been called out his name, so he defends himself. But I think there's a scary smart. Um, because he's a lot more wise than he leads on to some people. Not too black. There's nobody in the NBA today that's too black. And as far as hood black goes, I don't know about that because these cats are pretty much bought and paid for. He's not too black. He's a buck dancer. He's not too black. He's a bucker. He's an agent. He's like a plant. He's kind of like the Fat Joe of he's kind of like the Fat Joe of NBA players. No, no, it's a good shtick. It's almost like a Kanye shtick because he plays like he's schizo and that crazy, and and he's tough guy, and yet he's champion, and he's knowledgeable, and he's rolling with Charles and them, and he's multimedia, but then he wants to kind of act like he's deep. No, he's a dancer. And if you can't see it and can't smell it, I don't know what to tell you because his game is fraudulent. You know, he's building him up as an image of something like he's like for people who didn't grow up on Draymond Green, they're gonna like I'll say the buck version of Draymond, a true buck, very black, but he's not too black. He knows how to shuffle with LeBron, Clutch Sports. He knows how to shuffle with Steph. He's a party pleaser. He definitely puts himself in the middle with everybody. Oh, Beverly Hills Cop, Coming to America, Trading Places, Big, uh, Back to the Future, License to Drive. Um, oh God, I can't. It was a Henry Winkler, Michael Keaton one. I can't think right now. I like that a lot. A lot of them back then that I like. Yeah, I already said comedy movies. 80s movie soundtrack songs. When Doves Cry, Purple Rain, they come off the top. Jungle Love, which was featured in that too. Um, I'm All Right. I like Kenny Loggins. I like that soundtrack song. Axel Foley. Yeah, I mentioned Beverly Hills Cop. Axel Foley, I like the Axel F theme song by Harold Faltermeyer. Um, I liked Into the Groove and Crazy for You by Madonna. Soundtrack songs. Um, liked dang, what else did I like back then? Fight the Power, Public Enemy, soundtrack song. Probably my favorite, if you must know. Colors, Ice T, like that a lot. hmm There were a lot of comedies that I liked back then. I mean, I liked oh god, the Blues Brothers. I like that back then. You gotta remember, I gotta go back and think 40 years ago, and then whip them off like left and right. Well, Space Jam because I believe I could fly. I did like Above the Rim. I like Friday. I liked Waiting to Exhale. Babyface wrote and produced that. That was tight. Shoot Shoot with Whitney Houston and all that. Sitting up in my room with Brandy. I had the oh god, Minister Society soundtrack. Trigger Got No Heart. It was MC, not MC8, but I can't think right now. And then Higher Learning, like that. Yeah, I like them soundtracks too. Deep Cover, 6 in the Morning. That's Snoop and Dr. Dre. That's where Snoop got his. That was his MO. That was his introduction. Belly was cool. The first one. Mm, I remember. Had a lot back then. Oh, it's funny you mentioned all this stuff because see, you're talking about eras that I definitely, in terms of like, and it was soundtracks and it was songs and stuff like that don't happen today. It's not the same. But back then, that was the way. That was the norm. That was the norm. Um, only problem I had with my pet peeve with '90s soundtracks is that they took a lot of songs and they just took stuff from a lot of times. Very few were original. Whereas in the '80s, that was the last of the original, I would say, soundtracks or song where they was doing it. Very few were doing originals in the '90s. It was just like taking old songs and sticking them on soundtracks, and people just was playing the jukebox. That's pretty much how I would describe it. And I wouldn't even talk about that movie. And Morgan Freeman is one of the biggest tap dancers there's known to man. So I don't, he bucks. Great actor, but he's a shuffle. I don't even, because the more he talks, the more shuffling and grinning he does. So, but yeah, that Driving Miss Daisy thing was crazy. I remember all that. So, yeah. I had a community college teacher who was going about driving Miss Daisy. I said, I don't be seeing no mess like that. Kind of like, don't tell me how white bread you are, and you're gonna throw that in my face. I'm not trying to hear about no drama, Miss Daisy. You know. So people just kind of like, want stuff to be romanticized to fit their agenda and quota. Yeah. Yeah, But it's not something I really talk about. I try not to even talk about that mess because I just thought that was pretty offensive. But that's what they like. And Morgan couldn't wait to, he did the movie. That mess came out in 80. It's kind of funny. That movie came out in 89 when Do the Right Thing came out. That shows you the contrast in America. They expect you to kind of like shuffle. Yeah. What's happening, Matthew? How you doing? Good to see you tonight. Where you coming from, and you have any questions or any thoughts about anything? Because we're covering a lot of spectrum tonight. We're talking sports, music, movies, soundtracks. So if you got any questions, feel free to ask. All I say is don't spam and don't say anything that would be necessarily considered offensive. Other than that, feel free to ask away. Join the party. You know. But no, I don't. No, I didn't. None really in hindsight because watching Denzel Washington them people win, I guess you get it kind of happy, but somebody that you like and you root for. But then when you think about the politics involved, it really doesn't matter. They don't make me happy. Do the Right Thing didn't win Best Movie. It doesn't make me happy. It doesn't reflect uh, the general consensus sometimes. And they had when they used to say Oscar so white hashtag that wasn't that long ago. Okay, so um, doesn't really do nothing. When I was a kid, I would have told you when Michael Jackson won for Thriller back then, because that was a big freaking deal, because it reflected something that was happening in the culture that was happening. Um, but again, I'm not really. As time goes on, they don't mean nothing. Them award shows don't mean anything. They're bought and paid for. The win is when artists are still respected by their fans. The win is when people still care enough to support them decades after they hit past their peak, their prime. The awards don't really tell the story. For instance, I remember 20 years ago, right? Outkast won for Speaker Box Love Below, right? And then they quit basically. So what did it mean? If you were a fan of Outkast, that was your heyday. Because we didn't, when they did Idlewild, you know, a lot of them. I mean, Shaq in 2000 is one of them. Um, Bird in the 80s, Moses Malone back then, Dr. J, Jordan's 87, 1 years. Um, I'd say Steph's 2016 was heck of impressive. LeBron in 2013, around that time. Durant 2014 was impressive too. Jokic a couple years ago. Giannis. When you can see the best player on the best team playing and it goes the way it's supposed to, I'm not gonna argue with that. I'm not arguing with that. Some of them years it was kind of, yeah. I mean, let's be realistic. They don't have a Eastern or Western Conference one, so it kind of makes it like, eh. So it's kind of like splitting hairs. I think they should have had both sides of it, but so Barry Bonds was winning them, and I would say Albert Pujols was winning them. The Ichiro one was very back in '01 because come in as rookie of the year MVP. That was a rare double double. Um, those guys come to mind. Guys that were dominant and great and they got it. I didn't have a problem with it. You know. Um, I remember Mike Schmidt winning it back in the day, Andre Dawson winning it. I had no problem when there was guys that were great and dominant. So, um, if you were great and you did it, I got no problem with it. You know. I don't really care now. What's his butt with the Phillies who came from Washington? You know, I can't think of right now. You know what I'm talking about. He got an MVP. They lost in the World Series last year, but I didn't really understand that last MVP he got. Um, you know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah. And see, he was supposed to be polarizing. He's supposed to be the guy that was going to be the one that you love to hate. Yep, Bryce Harper. And maybe if he'd have came to the Yankees, maybe if he'd have gone somewhere where you could have really hated him, because he was all hyped and they had a lot of slurp juice for him and everything like that. And it didn't quite make. He's a good example of a guy that was set to be a guy that you love to hate. Had baseball had that kind of thing, and it don't. Just like Mike Trout, for all his successes and everything he does, he stat pads, and it just doesn't quite translate. Baseball just doesn't have that no more for me. The only, even people that you supposed to hate, like the Houston Astros for cheating and Boston's manager for cheating, nobody really, it just doesn't resonate like that no more. Doesn't really resonate. So, yeah, I agree with you. I agree. Except Judge is what you call the prototypical guy that you'd want in today's imagery. He's like a bigger version of Jeter. You know I'm going at with imagery. And if he came up and won a ring, they would put him on a special, then he'd be like the Patrick Mahomes of, you see where I'm going with this? That's what. And he's playing for the Yankees. But having said that, though, you're right. Harper would be. He did speak out against that one white boy who with the Yankees, that third baseman they let go. Remember, he made some racist remarks. He did speak out against him last year. Well, I can't think of that turkey's name. They let him go too, because he said some stuff on Twitter X, and they let him go. Judge did speak out against it because they came at dude too. They got rid of him, but he's I can't. You know what? I can't really say he's Russell safe, because I'll tell you why. He said if he didn't come back to the Yankees, he'd go to the Giants, because he said Barry Bonds was his favorite player. And he loved Bonds. And you don't hear a lot of guys playing today saying they love Barry Bonds. Even Giancarlo Stanton said that when he was hitting near 60 home runs, he said, I'm going to set the real record. Something like that he said. So Aaron's Aaron's got some soul to him, but he's milk toasty in terms of, he ain't gonna flip the cart too much. But if he won with the pinstripes, oh, believe me, they make him out like a national hero. But Harper would have been more Yankee type. You're right. That's a great part you made right there. Yeah, but he don't remind me of Griffey Jr. though. That's the thing. He don't. He can hit and play all right, but I don't feel no Griffey on him, no. I don't. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Don't know. Lionel was a huge Griffey Jr. fan, but that type of talent was one of them once, every 30, 40 years. Um, well, as long as they're watching the game. Sometimes they get into analytics. They have to sound like they're more hip and chic about certain things. Um, I would tell anybody broadcasting baseball today, you just kind of got to act like because they got the robots. They're calling strikes. Strike zones have changed. Pitching things have changed. The way they rationale as far as the pitch count, uh, the way they're trying to process the game, they're trying some new gimmicks, they're trying different things. So ask yourself, how do you really analyze it? Because it's a different ball game. It's changed in 5 years. That's what they've done. So they've made it more compartmentalized where they're trying to sell something, but I don't know what it is all the way through. So that's how I would say about it. You know, that's what I would say. So, I like the way they used to do it. I liked when Joe Morgan was doing it. I like the old ways where guys used to call the games. Joe Morgan is one of them. Vince Scully is one of them. The one that was Joe Morgan's partner on Sunday Night Baseball. Actually, I think Alex Rodriguez is good. And the cats that's with him too, the former player, he's good too. Um, I liked Joe Garagiola was good. Well, Ortiz is. I like Ortiz as far as commentating. Actually, Ortiz is a good. That's why he got in the Hall of Fame. If you must know, he became such a good person connecting. Harold Reynolds too. Uh, you know, that's why they. That's what got him in. That's what might get E right in. Backdoor commentating. Yeah, he gonna be the commentating about baseball like Tony Romo about the football. As long as Romo don't lose, don't fall out of favor, because he's a good commentator. And A Rod might fool around and talk himself into the Hall of Fame that way. He's a politician all the way. So, you know. So that's just one of those things that I say about with that. But I like A Rod though. You know. So um well, it depends on where you live. Cause see, I lived in different places. And so when I was in Houston, there was a guy named well, I did like Dwayne Stats. He was a good commentator, but Larry Durker was a former player. I don't know. One of them I liked, one of them I couldn't. So that was kind of hit and miss. Um, I want to say Ron Darling tried it. I don't know. It seemed kind of, I don't know. Uh, I think I like Tony Kubek okay back in the day. Uh, mm, oh, I meant to say I used to like John Miller. That's who it was. John Miller was really good. Um, I think they had Buck Showalter up there. I didn't really feel it. I didn't feel it. So, but just like the NBA and just like NFL, those guys do it because they act like they know what they. Rasheed Wallace was talking about it. If you get up there and you talk like you know what you're doing by X's and O's and doing this, you'll front get your job. But I tend to like the guys who didn't necessarily make it as coaches and their commentators. I tend to like them better as commentators, i.e., Stan Van Gundy. I like the Van Gundys more as commentators, being real, especially Stan, because I'm not feeling his NBA thing, but I like his analysts. So that's how I look at it. So, you know. Well, bloopers. Uh, well, most of the stuff is in basketball, the Shaq and the Fools. Football, probably when Jim Marshall ran that ball back. I don't know the consecutive with the ball fall hitting him in his head. Yeah, with Texas. And Jim Marshall running it the wrong way, 70 yards. That was hilarious. Um, you know, um, there's some ones in basketball, you know. but it's kind of, you know, I think the J.R. Smith going backwards was still crazy to this day. I never seen anything like that one, so that was crazy. Yeah. So that's those they come to mind. But you know, Ezekiel missed layup. Uh, not so much in well layups, but it's usually like bad shots or something bad or pass or something. I can't hold layups against people because there had to be a blooper. It's got to be something kind of like, wow, did that really happen? You know, like if you said Tony Romo with that botched extra point, not holding that ball down for the kick, that one would come up to mind. So that's what comes to mind. Well, yeah. Yeah, but that's not what lost the game. I mean, his hands went, but that's not what they lost. They lost the game because they didn't Aaron Rodgers didn't make no completion. Had he been halfway accurate, as bad as Russell played, it didn't make him pay for turnovers. As bad as Seattle was playing, they left to kept themselves in the game. Aaron Rodgers just didn't have the clutch gene. That's the problem. Should have beaten them. Should have beaten them. And when you lose opportunities like that, of course you're going to have what happened with Bostic. Because when you leave, I always got this saying, you leave, it's like a music artist. If they don't hit the tracks, you leave change on the floor, somebody else will scoop it up. And it's always like a coulda, woulda, shoulda. And they left a lot of coins on this track. So that was on them. None, because they're rookies. As long as you don't come in cocky and arrogant and thinking you're going to set the world on fire, you're set up to fail. You're set up to get smacked around. You're set up to get beat down. You're set up for, very few have those outer bodies where they probably make it into something special because it's a rookie for a reason. All right, what's happening? How you doing? Good to have you from Brazil. So feel free to ask any questions. Glad to have you. I don't have any. I'm gonna give them a benefit on that. Unless, of course, you're Zach Wilson and you still suck. And you ain't gotten no better than you were then. Or if you're Mac and Cheese Jones, that's, when we talk about um, scrubs, that's an exception. If you're not gotten any better than what you were, then that's what it is. But I can't find forward rookies. Okay. What's happening? How you doing? Congo, Brazil. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Welcome aboard. Glad to have you here. Feel free to ask. Well, currently, I'm in England right now from America. So, And you're from Brazil, Brazil, Congo. Okay, good to have you. And then glad you came through. You have any questions or anything you'd like to address or anything? Because we're talking about a wide range of various topics. Feel free. Well, it's the same pet peeve as I have with football assistant coaches or dude got managers. They have to act like they really get mad at the referees and they bark and they are all when they get all into it and you know, but they really actually setting themselves up for a job. And in some cases they're more respected. Okay, that's cool. French country, but that's cool. And you learned English translations, just asking. That's pretty incredible. Yeah, the assistant coaches, the thing is that they sometimes they overact, get technicals, or they get, they do all kinds of, and that's what gets them hyped. It gets the team hyped. Well, I don't know how it looks, so I just try to be cool. That's all. So I like to be friendly and polite to people and courteous. So um, that's something I can tell you. Don't try to make life difficult. Try to be a good person. But thank you. The mascot pet peeves. Some of them offensive, and not just the. And let me explain by saying offensive. Sometimes the names or something can be offensive, but sometimes the mascots can be freaks. You seen them just go up to women, just like the Philadelphia one, or some of them just actually be like pervs. They've done some suspect stuff. Some of them have. So, uh, you know, uh, I seen some of the mascots, and that gorilla in Phoenix. They probably Tarzan and Jane and the gorilla. So I'm sure some of them have used it to their advantages. But you have to be pretty athletic and mobile and all that. So yeah, I'm just being honest about them. Some of them were annoying. But I used to the Philly Fanatic and the San Diego Chicken. The San Diego Chicken was the funniest back in the day before everybody had one. Remember the gorilla in Phoenix used to jump off a trampoline and dunk and was athletic. So it's been different. None. Well, it's not something I like talking about because when my grandmothers used to did drink and she'd get kind of strong, heavy handed. So sometimes things weren't so cool. So the alcohol got her talking and acting. And it doesn't leave good memories. Let's just say that. So if you've ever gone through it, you know what I'm talking about. If you've never gone through it, it can be some words exchange. It can be some dark kind of connotations. And you just kind of hope somebody sleeps it off because it's pretty tough to take. That's all I'll say about that. Well, it's about 8:45. What about your time? Okay. So you're 3 hours ahead. Well, actually, no, you're 2.5 hours. 2.5 hours. No, it's about, yeah, 2.5 hours almost. I'm not going to answer that. So, okay. Okay. And what's it like there for you? Are you there all your life or what's the story? Do tell. Yeah, I've been hearing about that. Do tell. Back in the States, it's how it was with black school. I mean, with certain schools, but do tell. I appreciate if you would go into detail because a lot of people don't understand that uh, the resentment and the tension. And I did meet an African brother some months ago who didn't understand when I was telling about what we dealt with violence and racism and hatredism in America. So I appreciate if you share with what you've dealt with. Feel free. Orange, black, purple, green, yellow, and red. Never have ever get usually asked about that. But okay. Yeah. With in the states, guns, they have to do frisk. They do everything. They have to do everything. Except over in when it's in the states, it's mainly a lot of white kids who go to these schools and shoot up. And the media doesn't really talk about it a lot, but that's what happens. It's definitely driven by agendas. But I've heard about that there though. It's not covered as much here though. Let's see. All right. It's got kind of quiet again. Just giving people some time to thought. Yeah, that's what happens back in America. It's funny how like the stories echo one another. So often than not, the divide is to say how we're different, but how we are a lot alike. And obviously, in parts of Africa, with apartheid and segregation, we still deal with Jim Crowism too. Ours stems from the plantation slavery, a lot of it, because a certain agenda has been pushed upon stereotype that tells you that this is how you're supposed to be. And you have a group that decide that that's the only way they're going to make it. And then you have another group that's not. So that's how you get the bullies, you get the degenerates, you get different situations. So it's a very dangerous mixture. So it's a very dangerous wave. It doesn't get talked out enough, and it's you know, again, it's a very dangerous, evil cycle and circle going on. You know, so and it's not by accident either. Not by accident. I like how you were speaking, very eloquent about it and how you put it in context because it's not something that gets talked about by the media near enough. And they have an agenda with what they present, but they don't tell all the story. Okay, I'm glad you mentioned that you were a teacher. Yeah, you can't do nothing. Teachers in the states leave because they have to babysit, or in America, it's like a meat market. When I say about meat market, I'm not just talking about from a personal, intimate thing. I'm talking about meat market in the sense that the kids come in there and they're basically told to be, it's like AI robots. They're told to be computer. They have to be tested. And whatever comes out, that's where they are. They're not ever seen as humans. They're just robots. It's programs. So if you go meat market, take your number, we'll call you. That's where you are. That's how a lot of them are treated. So they don't have any real identity. They're just seen as fresh cut meat. And so you have that systematic that puts you in line. Whatever you test on, whatever you are is what you are. You can never be seen as more than just a product. Teachers have to pass these tests. Teachers have to pass out this data and feed it back to the machine. You're no longer allowed to what you qualify to be a teacher because you have to babysit, watch, and also protect yourself. And somehow that's supposed to, then what kind of compensation do you get from all that? So um, it's very unsettling, so, and that's the reality. So that's how I describe it. They're not protected in America either because there's a lot of stuff that goes on where they get bullied. And but our situation a little bit different. We got some teachers who are predators too, so you know they bring some unnecessary drama. But it's coming to be that where the students take over is a reality too. You know, I think you got a little bit more tougher, but they had it tough too, but in a different way. But sometimes they followed you to your crib. Some not necessarily teachers, but there would be some assaults and some things, and it was some different things going on. And some teachers took a little extreme with the students. So you tell me if you've had your teachers get friendly with some of your students too. That's what we had happen here. We've had a different situation. Some of it makes some sense, some of it don't. I wish it was about education. I wish it was about some legislation that, protected the student. The teachers get paid a decent wage, treated with respect, that everything wasn't so AI robotic where you had to just follow curriculum, that you weren't documented just as one, and that you actually was respected. But it doesn't work like that. And with technology, they're going to end up making it more remote. So that's how I look at it. Anyway. And in schools I went to, they had guns. Not needles per se, but they had guns. And again, we had that. At the time they had the cops were there, and also the electronic devices. They had like scanners. And, that's kind of safety measures. And it's usually like a couple of them that go off. It's not in everything. Cats that try to control the outside don't try to mess with too much with the teachers per se, but eventually that's what ends up happening. So that's what ends up happening. And I understand why they don't like it. Some don't like it because of the way they get treated, because they're treated like they are a piece of meat that gets fed into a system. They did in America. They did in America. If you watched anything in America, you see schools get shot up. See, now that's the ultimate takeout. That's what we had to deal with. They actually had just showing teachers how to fake like just fake like you got shot, play like you hiding in the corner. They actually have this. If you go okay, if you go on YouTube, they actually have videos where they have teachers and people playing like they're dead or playing like they're hiding in closets and corners and stuff. That's how serious it got here. This wasn't that long ago. Still goes on. happened in Texas just a couple years ago. So, what's happening, Tyrone Brown? How you doing? Good to have you here tonight. And feel free to ask any questions, anything you want. Bring it on. Just having some real lively discussions, various topics. Cool. Oh, that's right on. I think that you have to take back your streets. You know, when people talk about neighborhood watch, you have to take back what's yours. Right on. Appreciate you, Tyrone. Appreciate you. Thank you so much. Glad to have you. Um, you have to take back what's yours. You have to empower yourself. You have to bring your congregates of educators together and say, hey, we're here for this. You have to talk to your principals. You have to talk to, have to reach out with saying, hey, we're trying to save for the future. Because if we get taken out, who is going to lead the storm? Who's going to lead against the storm? You have to stand up. And there's so much corruption. I mean, like I can just tell you in the States, they'd rather turn a dollar, turn a buck than to really educate and save a life, you know. Um, and that's a sad, unfortunate reality. So that's how I would describe it. You have to like make sure that you moan it and you put it there like that. Uh, so um I don't know, money's not gonna make you, money and a good heart is two different entities. My name is Max. Just like though if you came in here, you'll see it. Max is that's my name. Um to be comfortable, you have to be spiritually filled. It's got nothing to do with money. Spiritually, you have to be fulfilled. It has no dollar amount. Yep. So I believe that. I can't tell you nothing more than that because money's one thing, but it's not gonna make you feel fulfilled. Have a good heart is something that you have to generally do every day. Give of yourself, ask of nothing, be the best you can be, and pray for your others, you know. And spiritual enlightenment, but you have to feel that. It has to feel. It's not something that a dollar amount is going to make happen anytime. Because you know what they say about a fool and his money. So if your heart's not there, but your money's gone and you thinking that's what's going to save you, it's not the end all be all. It's important, but it's not the end all be all. It's not. I've seen people with money be miserable and I've seen people with no money be happy. No, it's been around for a few years. The only thing is that you catch me on the live chat. And I've been doing them more regular in the past year. And I'd say in the past couple of months, I'm doing them more nightly. If I'm inspired, if I get enough people that come through, uh, good, strong questions, good, strong commentary, no trolls. Yeah, well, Diddy is bought and paid for by an industry that wants that he signed up for. He became what happened to him. It's very demonic. It's very sad. And when you have a master, your master becomes that illusion. You try to do anything for inclusion, and you're not going to outlive it because there's going to be new money and a new puppet that'll come along. So you have to make sure your soul is right because it's not for long. Yeah, it is. It is. How you treat people, what you do. And it's a small world. It ain't as big as you think. So people be affected. But Puffy's just a long it's a bigger line than him. It's just that he happens to be the sacrifice at the time. There's a lot of them like that. A lot, you know. And there will be others. But the whole truth won't come out. But anyway, like I was saying, I do come through here. Yeah. So my this guy named Ted, he was here earlier and a couple others. We get into talking about sports. We talk about pop culture. We talk about a lot of different topics. And when we talk, it takes on a life of its own. So uh, the subject matter can go from any different topic as long as it's done with tact and class. I don't allow trolls on. I don't address anything that I consider vulgar or negative. Um, I'm not going to answer that. I am human at the end of the day, and I have feelings, and there will be what we call male talk, like talk about women, stuff like that. But it's going to be tasteful. Uh, I don't do derogatory. Keep it funny, keep it light in spots. I'm not going to be, there's a fine line. I am opinionated about stuff. We talk about race, we talk about sex, we talk about class, we talk about, you know, yeah, I have no problem with that. And I have no problem at all. It's all about living better and doing better and keeping people in the best light. Lord knows we go through enough strife every day in our regular lives. So I don't know. I know where my YouTube is 3,000 plus, but I don't really keep tab with stats because I really don't know because it may be more. They don't always tell the truth. What's happening, Dino Lover? How you? I don't really keep tab with stats. It's not something I do because I'm not. People want to subscribe. If people wanted to give, if they wanted to give money or whatever they want to do, um, that's the choice. I don't sell myself to different things. I'm doing good. Good to see you. And so my thing is just communicating and keep it good, keep a good energy. So when people want to communicate, they do. And doing all right, Dino Lover. Good to see you tonight. All right. Well, Dino, um, we just talk and we try to keep it classy, kind of keep it dignified, you know, um, keep an even temperament. I don't, you know, Yeah. Had some good feedback from Prenom. There was some good conversation. It's a lot of good topics above. Well, like I said before, this kind of seesaws into different directions. So it all depends on what people come in here when they want to converse about, you know. So I welcome it. And I come here on different times, so like I'm eating a little bit because I gotta eat me a meal. Been on here for like 2+ hours, but you know, uh, again, people come through. We just have great conversation. We try to, yeah. So I welcome that, you know, whatever topics and like I said, discussions, we just go from there. And it's kind of like it's like a puzzle. You just kind of try to fill in the blanks. No stress, no tension. So yeah, of course. I mean, if that's what you choose to do, I'm not like I said before. Uh, okay, appreciate that. I'm not on my main computer, but I appreciate that. And again, whatever you do, I appreciate it. I appreciate anybody coming through. Um, I really didn't enjoy it though. I don't know what that means. Don't do nothing you don't want to do. Tell you that now. I don't want anybody doing anything they're not comfortable with. So if your heart's not in it, don't. I also have a Patreon page, Mr. Max. It's over. You can find me on Patreon, but I don't promote none of my stuff like that. If people come through, they come through. That's good. That's good to hear. Glad that you like her too. That's very important. Believe me, in this day and time, people sometimes are with people they can't stand. So, well, be very careful. That's all I'd say. Be very careful. You know, you know. But I'm glad that you came through. And I will be here more often. Like I'm doing here during the weeks. So I'll be back tomorrow night, probably Sunday too. So you know, I do my videos on YouTube. So if I got conversation, wanna. I'm glad you came through. I'm glad you came through. I like that energy. It's always good to get new souls and just to converse, you know. Because again, I welcome. I'm just me. I'm no better than nobody and I'm no less than nobody. I just keep it even keel and we can talk and reflect and relate. And you got something to say and as long as the vibe is good and it's like I said before, I don't deal with trolls and I don't deal with, people being vulgar or offensive. Like, as long as we're talking about certain things and we can have a healthy debate, that's cool. I do talk about race, I do talk about class and stuff, but uh, that's cool. But, you know, keep it cool. So, but I'm glad you came through. And I always appreciate supporters and people that have contributions and they got, all right. Okay, okay, okay. So it's cool. Glad you came through. I'm gonna go in a couple minutes because it's about my time. I've been on here for 2+ hours. So I talked myself to a good meal tonight. So I'm gonna go eat. I'll be here for a couple more minutes. I'll be the 2:20 mark. But I definitely enjoyed everybody came through tonight. I appreciate it. And it's always good to meet different people from all different parts of the world, different backgrounds, conversations, topics, themes. Um, very organic and yeah, that's cool. That's good. That you got an elder teacher. That's good. I Last time I had an elder teacher that I was in touch with was my old Sunday school teacher, and I remember her. She's one of the most smartest people I ever encountered. She lived in Virginia. She was a diamond, incredible soul, and as smart as anybody I ever encountered. Because she was doing trigonometry, geometry in like ninth, 10th grade back in the day. So she was an incredible soul. So anyway, I'm gonna sign off in about a couple minutes. But appreciate everybody coming through. Yeah, and feel free to come through anytime. I welcome you coming through. If you got any suggestion, interview, videos you like, comments, things you want to discuss, feel free. I welcome it. I really do. Appreciate you, and stay safe, stay warm, stay careful. And I'm looking forward to talking to y'all the next time. Peace and the best. And again, feel free anytime. All right, I'm out. Peace.